Hello everybody, Ellie here for WhoCulture, and who's ready to talk about some numbers? Now you don't need to worry, maths is not my strong suit either. That's not what we're talking about here, so fear not. Now there have been some comprehensive viewing figures for season 1 published in the latest issue of Doctor Who magazine. And Doctor Who also featured heavily in the BBC's annual report as well. So what we're going to do is basically we're going to break all of that down for you. And despite all of the doom and gloom that seems to be in the air about Doctor Who lately, especially surrounding that deadline report and some of the other chatter that's circling the web at the moment, I want to explain to you why the show actually is in a really good place right now, and maybe we don't need to be as worried as we initially thought. So we're going to focus here on the 7-day figures to start with, because the 28 days figures as of recording are incomplete. So we'll come back to those in a little while, but for now we're going to focus on those 7-day viewing figures. So basically this is how many people watched each episode of season 1 within the first 7 days of broadcast. So here are the figures. Space Babies had 4.01 million viewers with a chart position of 10th. The Devil's Cord, 3.91 million with a chart position of 12th. Boom, 3.58 million with a chart position of 18th. 73 Yards, 4.06 million with a chart position of 12th. Dot and Bubble, 3.38 million with a chart position of 24th. Rogue, 3.52 million with a chart position of 14th. The Legend of Ruby Sunday, 3.50 million with a chart position of 19th. And Empire of Death, 3.69 million with a chart position of 18th. So for those of you who might be unclear about what chart position means, that's basically where it ranked on the weekly chart. So Space Babies was the 10th most watched program of the week, The Devil's Cord was the 12th most watched program, and so on and so forth. So here's the thing about these 7-day figures. Now I'm sure many of you have seen article headlines and YouTube video titles saying that Doctor Who ratings are down. And at face value, if you're just looking at comparing those straight numbers, then yes, that is true. So the average 7-day rating for season 1 is 3.7 million viewers, while the average 7-day rating for Flux, which was the last full series that the show had, was 5 million. So yes, the average viewing number has decreased by 1.3 million since 2021. And just for comparison, here are those individual 7-day viewing figures for Flux, and then you can see how they compare to season 1. So here are those figures. The Halloween Apocalypse, 5.81 million. War of the Sontarans, 5.12 million. Once Upon Time, 4.69 million. Village of the Angels, 4.57 million. Survivors of the Flux, 4.86 million, and The Vanquishers, 4.67 million. But here's the thing that people are missing when they are saying that the ratings are down. And that is context. Context is vital. Without context, we are ultimately just screaming into the endless void of nothingness. It's just numbers, and we're not looking at external factors. And I think the vital context with regards to season 1 is that it aired over the spring/summertime, which is one of the warmer periods in the UK, and a time when TV viewing figures across the board are lower than, say, in autumn and winter, which is when Flux aired. So yes, while Doctor Who's viewing figures are down, so are everybody else's. So I think the much more consistent metric to be looking at when gauging the success of the show is the chart position. And season 1 performed very well in that regard. So as I just mentioned, Space Babies was the 10th most watched program of that week. And then you've got 73 Yards at 12th, you've got Rogue at 14th, you've got The Legend of Ruby Sunday at 19th, and Empire of Death at 18th. Think about all of the shows that are airing on linear telly in the UK. You've got your sports shows, you've got your soaps, you've got your reality shows, everything that's on linear TV. To consistently be in the top 20 programs is very impressive. And not to mention, The Legend of Ruby Sunday and Empire of Death, they were competing with the opening stages of Euro 2024, which is why they were kind of bumped from those mid-teen positions to the kind of later teen positions in that 7-day chart. But here's the really crucial bit of information. Season 1's average on the 7-day chart, which was 16th, was right in line with past series of Doctor Who. So here's a quote from Doctor Who magazine that puts it into perspective. Season 1's average chart position of 16th is the highest a season of Doctor Who has achieved since 2018, which is Jodie Whittaker's debut run, and neck with Christopher Eccleston's Soul series, which relaunched the show so successfully back in 2005. I mean, that's real crazy to think about, isn't it? Basically, in other words, relative to the time of year that it aired and relative to the other programmes around it, Season 1 performed right on par with Christopher Eccleston's Series 1 in 2005. And that was a huge success and basically is the reason why we're sitting here having this conversation today. And yes, okay, while at that time the show was pulling in 6, 7, 8 million viewers, viewing habits and TV landscape has massively changed since then. So yes, Season 1 may have dropped to 3, 4, 5 million viewers, but that can still be considered very healthy. And something else that we need to consider in relation to Doctor Who and most shows nowadays really is that it's no longer appointment viewing only. More so now than ever before, people are watching things on catch-up. People are waiting for the full season to air so that they can binge all of the episodes in one sitting. People are catching up with episodes days or even weeks after they've aired. Put it this way, and I would include myself in this as well because I also haven't done this yet. Danny was telling me today that he has only just started watching the new season of House of the Dragon because he didn't feel any urgency to watch it when it dropped back in June. And I also haven't actually got around to watching it yet, which isn't to say that I don't want to watch it and I'm not going to watch it and I'm not intrigued by it, but because it's available to me as and when I want to watch it, there's no need to rush. It's there, it's available on catch-up, on streaming. Unlike in the past where it is if you miss it when it airs, then you've got to wait ages to find a copy of it somewhere else or to wait for it to be re-aired at a later date. The thing is as well, there's just so much to watch these days and it is more accessible. You have the option to choose when you want to watch it and how you want to watch it. But the point being that this is something that the industry does keep an eye on as well. They're aware of this. The industry is not completely oblivious to the fact that the whole way of viewing has changed, and they obviously monitor that. It's no longer about how many immediate viewers you get. It's how many viewers you get after 2 weeks, after 3 weeks, after 4 weeks, after a month, which is 4 weeks. You get the idea. Are you growing or are more people jumping in to watch your show over an extended period of time? So if we do take a look at some of the 28-day viewing figures for Season 1, Space Babies has a reach of 5.6 million viewers, which is up from 4 million for the 7-day figures. So already we've seen an increase there. And there are similar increases in all the other episodes as well. And they're only going to keep growing because they're still accessible and available to watch, and people might think, maybe I will watch that. And those viewing figures will still increase. So I guess even if you do want to argue that the show did have a slow start, a huge number of people are still tuning in to watch it now. And as I literally just explained, the show is in a very healthy position compared to a lot of the shows around it. So there's also the value of the brand itself to consider here. So if we move over to the BBC's annual report here, Doctor Who is mentioned numerous times throughout it. For example, there's a section that explains how the show has had an economic impact of £256 million across the UK, which is obviously massive. Doctor Who is also the BBC's #1 drama with young audiences, which makes it one of the biggest shows in the world for that particular demographic. Yes, there has been a lot of negative chatter surrounding the show lately, but if you do look at that raw data, Doctor Who is an incredibly valuable show to the BBC, and it's doing just fine. Yes, it's not doing spectacularly, but it's doing fine. And it's not going anywhere soon, I don't think. Might that age very badly? It's possible, but I'm quite confident at the moment that the show's not going anywhere. I think the thing is, it is funny, isn't it? Because I think as an entire community, the Doctor Who fandom is just always in this permanent state of panic that the show is going to disappear. You know, there's a lot of fans who remember the 1989 cancellation and are kind of traumatized by that happening. And then for younger viewers, it's always been a slight rumor that's happening. You know, after David Tennant left, there were rumors of cancellation. After Jodie Whittaker left, there were rumors of cancellation. And guess what, guys? The show has kept on going. Nothing got cancelled. We are still getting new Doctor Who. So I think we just need to take a breath, calm down, be excited for what's to come, and just see what happens. I think it is interesting when you do look at these viewing figures and these statistics and actually start to make comparisons and consider other variables as well. It is very easy to look at those figures and see a decrease in the numbers week by week and think, oh, well, that's it. It's not going well. But obviously there are other variables to consider, and the whole nature of television has changed in the last few years, particularly following COVID-19. So I think we are actually okay. I think there are a few areas that maybe are of concern, but at the moment, I think we all need to just chill out. I think we're going to be fine. Are they famous last words? I hope not. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, there is a deadline report doing the rounds, and we did do a couple of videos covering the topics in that report, so do go and check those out if you haven't already. In the meantime, I've been Ellie for WhoCulture, and in the words of River Song herself, goodbye, sweeties.